everybody, and welcome to another mouth-watering episode of Anae's Food Show. On the show today, I have a recipe which is just gonna make you, I don't know, happy, I guess. If a recipe can make you happy, this one is going to do that for you. We're looking at mushrooms, and so we're gonna be looking at the nutritive value of mushrooms, as well as the benefits of consuming mushrooms. It grows in forests, but nowadays you can actually grow them at home, and a lot of people are doing just that. And we're going to meet one person who is doing just that, growing mushrooms. And so in our recipe today, we have mushrooms with catfish or mudfish. Catfish and mudfish are two different varieties of fish, but they do grow in the similar situations. But we're looking at catfish in particular. However, we are going to be putting those two together and create a very enticing dish of beans, like a bean soup kind of dish. Very nutritive and healing. So don't go away. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Anae's Food Show, your favorite food and lifestyle show. The assurance for your well-being.
Welcome back to the show. I hope you're ready to go along with me on this journey of mushrooms and beans and fish. Before we get the recipe started, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the mushrooms. I have here with me dried mushrooms. These are oyster mushrooms. And before we cook them, for this recipe, we're using just about a handful. So this one I'm showing you right here is just a little bit shy of a few mushrooms than what we have actually soaked in here. So what you want to do is to make sure that you put it in water so it sort of rehydrates, and then it's going to finish cooking as we cook the dish. But oyster mushrooms have some very good properties, as we're going to hear later from the person who actually dried these. And I just learned that they have the ability to slow down your aging process. So, you know, we want to live that fountain of life. Mushrooms actually could be the formula that you need for that fountain of life. And he's going to tell us more about that. And while we're working through this recipe, there's one thing that I want you to all think about. When we were growing up, or when I was growing up, there was some kind of mushroom that was found, was commonly called coco bianco. Coco bianco, yes. Think about it. And I would really like for you to tell me, or I will tell you the English name of coco bianco. It has its English name. So for now, we're working with oyster mushrooms, and we're going to develop a very nice recipe for you using these mushrooms. So we've already soaked this, and you see when you soak them, it's almost like meat. You know, that's the beauty of mushrooms. You can actually use it sometimes to replace meat. And it's fleshy, and when you bite into it, your teeth sink right into it, and it makes a very good accompaniment for most dishes. Mushrooms itself also do have a flavor enhancing property. So sometimes you don't need to have extra things like cubes, Maggi cubes, or cooking cubes in your dish. Just by using mushrooms alone, you can actually enhance the flavor of your food very well. So for this dish, it's going to be very simple, not a lot of ingredients, but the flavor, oh my goodness, you have to try this at home. Okay, to get it started, we have one medium-sized onion. Oh, I hope I don't cry. But what I do, which helps me with my onion eye problem, is we soak the onions. So before I cook, I soak my onions in water and just let it sit for maybe half hour. Or sometimes if I think about it, if I have a lot of food to prepare, I soak them and have it in water for overnight. And that way I will not shed a tear like I'm doing right now. I'm not shedding a tear right now. I'm a big girl. I can cut my onions without crying. I've heard all kinds of things about stopping onion juice from getting into your eyes, including putting a matchstick in your mouth. Now, I don't know about that one. It will really hurt for me because I have to talk, so I cannot put a matchstick in my mouth. Even for moms, it's challenging because you have to now and again shout to somebody. Okay, so we've got our onions chopped, and we have garlic cloves, and I'm using really big cloves. I know a lot of people like to use the what you call country garlic, the small garlic, and some people believe that has more. I'm not going to lie to you, this onions is getting into my eyes right now. But about garlic, I'm using the large cloves, and personally I prefer. For me, they taste just as good as country garlic, and they're easy to cut like I'm just doing here. This dish, you don't need to, we have a tendency to blend everything, put everything in the blender and grind it all up, or put it on the stone and grind it. When you do that too much, you lose your flavor onto your stone. For instance, I'm cutting this and you're seeing there's a wetness to that stone. That juice that is being released from that onion is being absorbed into that wood. It's not going to end up in my pot. So I'm going to lose on flavor. So the thinner you have it, the more flavor you're going to lose. And when you lose that flavor, that's when you need now to start substituting, or subsidizing rather, with other things, like cubes and so on and so forth. But we're just going to chop this like so. And those onions are some strong onions. So just chop our garlic, and as it cooks down in the sauce, the flavor is going to come out and it's going to be awesome. As far as our beans go, so I'm just going to start this off with just about 2 tablespoons of oil. Not a lot of oil, just a little bit. That's about 2 tablespoons of oil right there. Let that heat up a little bit. And to prepare our beans, I'm using white beans. And this dish just works better with white beans. You could also possibly use what is called batibo beans. They call it batibo beans, but it's a longer bean and fleshier, so it has kind of meat to it. So when you cook the bean, it's long and it's heavy. But this one would go well for this earth soil. So what we'll do is you soak your beans before you get into this dish. You soak your beans, boil them to the nice and soft, and then you rinse it out and you drain it, and you cook fast. And there, that nice sizzling hot oil. Let's put in our onions and garlic and stir it. Now we're going to build our flavors. So, like I said earlier, this is for flavor, we're not adding so much for spices because just the ingredients themselves carry a lot of flavor. So I'm going to add just about, for the salt, we'll balance it at the end because we're using smoked fish, which was also salted before smoking. So we don't want to add too much salt at the beginning and then have to struggle with that. So we'll balance it at the end with that salt. So for that, I'll add just about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, and I'll just add just a quarter teaspoon of salt, just so that this just tosses with the other ingredients, and we'll balance it all at the end, as I said. Then we'll add our mushrooms. So you can look at the mushrooms, and if you have some of them that are too big, you can just cut it down. See, when I say it's like kanda, like you say, called kanda, skin dried hide. So just chop it up a little bit and put it in. And it's a good addition to this dish. Okay, now we've got our mushrooms in. It's going to finish cooking with the dish. So I'll just add some water. Just about a pint, not quite a liter of water, about half a liter of water, and then you let it come to a boil. Now, I'm going to use fresh herbs instead of spices. You know, spices are grains. Herbs are this, what we call green spices often, but these are herbs. So I'm going to add basil and just about maybe, I've got here like 3, 4, 5. Beans and basil go very well. So beans and basil is a very good combination, and so therefore it's going to also be a very good combination for this dish because it's beans, and we just roughly chop this. Again, we don't want to grind it like we're used to grinding green spices, put everything and blend it. First, it's going to add some color to the dish and add more character to the dish, and then it's going to also, you know, allow our flavors to just boil out into the pot rather than onto a cutting board. I'll just add a bit more here. Yeah. And then another herb I'm going to use is rosemary. You can find rosemary dried already, but this is just fresh rosemary. It's also an herb and very piney. So the leaves, if you will, are very, it's almost like pine grass or pine trees or whatever. But it is an herb which is good with beans as well as with meats. So it's going to be a beautiful addition to this dish. Now this one, I'm just going to throw it in like so. So I'm just going to put that in like that. And then we'll add our beans. I had already boiled, soaked and boiled 1 cup of beans earlier. So, you know, it does bulk up when you cook it. So the beans has been cooked. I'll just add that to it. Boiled, rinsed. I know sometimes some people have trouble with beans when you eat beans which is not properly washed. Make sure if you have such an illness or if you have such a disturbance with beans, make sure when you boil the beans you wash it out very well and you drain all the water before using it and you'll be okay. Okay, unless it's something else. So then we'll let it, I'll just add a little bit more water into this. We'll let it simmer. And then the last thing I'm going to add is the fish, dried fish. So mudfish, which is characterized by this seemingly hard head, smoked mudfish. Now we had to open this earlier because mudfish is a very oily fish, and it's one of those types of fishes that is really difficult to dry or to smoke. Such that it's really dry. So if you do it and there's obviously there's going to be some moisture left in it. So if you're not very careful, if you don't keep it in the refrigerator, if you don't put it in the fridge, you might get some unwanted guests in it. And so it's always advisable to open it up and make sure you take out anything that is not supposed to be in there and wash it out clean. We've opened this up and cleaned it up. This was salted before smoked. And now the other big thing happening in Cameroon is eating local, and instead of importing a lot of fish, growing your own fish. And honestly speaking, you can grow your own catfish right in the back of your home, your backyard. If you want more information on that, you can write it to us. But you can grow your own. This is a homegrown catfish and home smoked. So this is really a homegrown meal. Okay, so this is just 2 medium-sized fishes that was smoked, and I don't want to scatter it too much, so we'll just break it into pieces that are going to be bite-sized. And I'm not going to leave out the head though. I'll put the head in, because when it cooks and it scatters, it seems tough, but when you cook it down, actually it's really soft and tender. So I don't want you to miss out on anything. So we had cleaned it out, so we'll just put that in there. The aroma is beginning to really get to me. In fact, if you don't try this at home, then you don't know what you're missing out on. So just go ahead and add that. Now I really want this to have a lot of fish in it, fish and mushrooms, so you can put more or less. It all depends on you. So with all of that now, we've added our salt, we've added our black pepper, mushrooms, beans, everything. So we'll just cover it and let it simmer, and then we'll taste this dish, I'll taste it with my guests, and then we'll tell you what it tasted like. Then you'll cook it and then tell me what your experience was. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Anna's Food Show, your favorite food and lifestyle show. The assurance for your well-being.
Welcome back. We've had our beans simmering for about 15 minutes. And that simmering is just to get all the ingredients to blend in together for our mushrooms to soften up a little bit. And we're just going to peek on it now and look at it. Now you can add a little bit more water. I did add a little bit more water to this. It's just so that, the mushrooms are picking up the water. The beans is also a thickener. And so it depends on how thick or how light you want it. But for this particular one, I prefer it to be just a little bit on the watery side, because we'll serve it with some bread. And while we're waiting for all of it to finally come together, I'll introduce you to my guest, Mr. Gilbert, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about mushrooms, as he is the mushroom expert of the Northwest region. Mr. Gilbert, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anne.
It's a pleasure to have you on Annie's Food Show.
It's my pleasure to be here also.
And working with your mushrooms is awesome. I know I worked with you when I was working with eCraft, the World Agroforestry Center. That's how I got connected to you. And since you've been growing mushrooms. So what are the health benefits of eating mushrooms?
The first thing, look at the nutritional importance of mushroom. Mushroom is very rich in protein. And
Rich in
protein,
okay.
And repairs of one cells. And also good for vitamins. There's some vital vitamins that in mushroom that can even get to other crops.
Okay, such as which?
The vitamin B, the B complex is very rich in B complex. And also rich in minerals. And some minerals, something that sometimes go to the hospital, we buy too much expensive, and discover that mushroom have those minerals that we need to improve our health.
And minerals are really they're called micronutrients. So you just need a little bit of it to go a long way.
Yeah.
Okay. So now these particular mushrooms that we are working with today, what is they're known as oyster mushrooms.
Yeah, this is oyster mushroom, right? Oyster mushroom. And more organic. Some people say, oh, that is artificial mushroom. This is natural grown mushroom. Oyster mushroom use the substrate like sawdust substrate, corn cob substrate. We grow this mushroom. Then one more we have here. mushroom.
Oh, in 1 month time you can harvest already.
Mushroom.
So it's a quick turnaround kind of thing.
Indeed, fast growth.
Okay, excellent. Now, for some of our audience who are very scientifically minded, what is the scientific name for oyster mushroom?
Sometimes we want to frighten people at times, but for the sake of that scientific, we say it is Pleurotus ostratus.
Let me get this right. Pleurotus, please don't laugh. Pleurotus ostratus.
The scientific name of oyster.
Pleurotus ostratus. Now, earlier on, I challenged people to think about the English name. I call it the English name of Cocobianco. Now you are the mushroom expert.
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
Cocombiaco is a vernacular name.
Yes.
People want to know about Cocombiaco. But that's the general name that they call over, maybe in the grass field, Cocombiaco. But the real name is mushroom. Yeah, it's mushroom. And mushroom has so many varieties that either is edible or medicinal.
But the one that is grown, that we commonly find around,
the umbrella mushroom.
The umbrella mushroom.
The mytomyces that is there on the hill.
Listen, it's termites.
Yeah.
And it is because termites enhance the growth of that.
Yes.
So I said earlier, if you were grasshoppers that enhanced it, don't even go there. But termitomyces is the name of that umbrella mushroom, which we commonly call it Cocombiaco. Okay, so now you know. And if you would like to know how to grow your own mushrooms, you can get to us on the show and we'll connect you with Mr. Gilbert, and he will teach you how you can also grow mushrooms and have good, edible, healthy mushrooms within a month. So, I'm ready to taste this dish that contains your mushrooms.
What a privilege for that.
Okay, I'll dish it right up for you. So the mushrooms have been cooking with the smoked fish, smoked mudfish or catfish. This is actually catfish because mudfish actually really grows right in the mud. And so this is actually catfish, homegrown by my humble self. Okay. And I'll just turn this off. And it's quite hot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. But you go right ahead and taste it.
The aroma is so wonderful. I just feel so satisfied when I started eating the mushroom, the dish. So what is the name of this dish?
That's a good question. What is the name of this dish? I just called it beans and mushroom soup. Just kept it simple. I didn't give it like tomatoes or
Mushroom sauce.
So I call it more soup because it's hearty.
Okay.
And you see that for somebody who is convalescing, that is somebody who is sick and getting well, you can imagine how this can enhance their health. Because you have your mushrooms in here, we have fish, and we have those herbs, and it's really light, so it will make you...
I will increase the appetite. Now the mushroom is here, those who lost appetite.
You will regain your appetite. Yes.
So,
so go ahead. Makes me want to run out and eat.
You really need to test this chicken. I wish for another invitation.
Oh, it definitely, definitely will. But thank you for watching the show, and I hope that you've really learned a lot from this show about mushrooms in particular. And if you'd like to know more about growing mushrooms, please get in touch with us on amundi@gmail.com, on our Facebook page, Anae's Food Show, and on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us, just search for Anae's Food Show. And Mr. Gilbert, it's been a pleasure having you on the set, and I'm sure we'll have you again some other time in the future. And my dear viewers, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with us through the show. And bon appetit. Stay tuned for the next show.